Why don't you find somebody else?
Because you're not like anybody else.
Now available.
Everyone, Dan Sapp here for the SupergirlHomepage.net. Today I have two very special guests. My very first guest is the writer and director of the Supergirl fan film Girl of Steel, Mr. Vincent Tran. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing really good. Thank you so much for having us here.
Great, perfect. And my second guest, you can see her kicking ass and taking names as Zor-El in the Girl of Steel, Miss Sarah Smack McCreanor. How are you doing today, Sarah?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Very good, thanks. So for starters, thank you so much for taking time away from your busy schedule to sit down with me for a few minutes to discuss the amazing Girl of Steel movie. And just to give you an idea of what critics are saying about it, they're saying things like intense, awesome, a badass take on Supergirl, and for that I agree 100%. So thank you for creating such a great movie and such a tribute to Supergirl for sure.
Thank you.
And so my first question I have for both of you, Vincent, we'll start with you, is basically nothing to do with the film per se, but more about yourselves to get to know your backstory. Vincent, how did you get starting the whole idea of filmmaking, and what inspired you to go down this path as opposed to others?
Filmmaking was always a hidden passion for me. Like, I originally wanted to get into acting when I came out here to Hollywood, just because I thought, like, it'd be something good to try, and everybody else is doing it. And, people have this perception when you come to LA, dreams can be made and like everything's so easy. But as time went along and I went to acting classes and started doing acting jobs, I noticed that the amount of work was really hard and demanding for me, particularly. For other people, it's different. But later on, I just decided, if I'm going to try to book jobs so much and I emotionally get affected by them, why don't I just try to make my own movie? Eventually, I had to teach myself how to, pick up the camera, and thanks to like nowadays in our generation, we have accessibility to software with editing and like cameras and people. And I think Los Angeles is a really good place for that. It has a lot of resources for all those elements that, that are needed to make a movie. But that's originally how I started. And then ever since, I started my first movie, B-Boy, I wanted to branch out in storytelling, and that's something that I had to learn from other peers. But it was really it was an unforeseen future of mine. So I'm kind of embracing it right now as we speak.
Perfect. Sounds great. And to you, Sarah, what inspired you to do the art of acting?
Well, I actually began training in dance when I was really little, and from that I just extended into acting and theater and I guess acrobatics as well. And I mean, I'm from Australia, so I did a lot of training back there as a kid, and then had the opportunity to come over here for work, and I've just stayed here since. And I mean, just like Vince was saying, you do have to create your own work as well. I mean, there are a lot of people here trying to do the same thing, so you've got to keep motivated as well. So I've really aimed to be more versatile than anything. I want to be able to offer as much as I can. So dancing, acting, theater, musical theater, and now even I'm moving into stunt work, which has been really exciting for me the past year, trying to, learn some more things about fight sequences and fight choreography and things like that. So it's really cool that I got to do that in this film as well.
Excellent. Very cool. Vincent, as the writer and director of the film, what in your own words is The Girl of Steel?
The Girl of Steel is about a woman in our society, in today's present time, debating on which is right and which is wrong. And what we really want to emphasize on the story was that she was adapting to this new world, but a world that significantly challenges her in her, perception on people, the way we are in politics, and the way our government works, and also focusing on really important issues that are happening, like catastrophes and stuff like that. So she's really debating on like who to believe or not. And we really wanted to make a character that we almost felt connected to, because back in the day, superhero films, or even comic books, I'm sorry, because that's what came out first. Right. I feel like the way that it came out in the beginning was to give somebody, or give people, a sense of someone to look up to, some type of inspiration for people to survive during the lack of food, or like poverty and all that stuff. and also especially during war. And so nowadays times have changed. You know, we don't really support war as much as we did back then because everybody has this genuine awareness of, you know, are we one? Are we going to make this planet better? I mean, Earth is right now like in jeopardy of human beings. You know, we're almost like destroying it. You know, so we wanted the Girl of Steel to portray a sense of awareness around that particular area.
Perfect. That sounds great. Sarah, to you, what did it mean to play the character of Supergirl, and what inspired you to do this film?
Well, I mean, Supergirl she's an iconic role model for so many people, so many girls and everything. So, I mean, it's kind of like a privilege to be able to play that kind of character, knowing that I am portraying someone who is an inspiration to so many. And I mean, she has such a reputation as well. So it was quite an honor to be able to do that. And this film in particular, I loved it because it was so real. Like Supergirl, Kara, in this particular film, she's younger and she's a little bit more rebellious. She has a little bit more attitude. And I feel like more people can relate to that in this day and age. She was more, you know, she's like just starting to realize that her powers and her strength, they're in demand, and she can be used for, you know, to save the world essentially. So she's at that like prime age where she's developing into a woman. So it was a really like a significant role to play, knowing that people are watching it. And I mean, there are comparing to other superwomen and other Supergirls, sorry, that have been portrayed before. So, yeah, it was a privilege to be able to play that.
Excellent. Well, that's I completely agree with you on that one. Vincent, in your own words, I mean, what is your backstory with Supergirl, if any, for example, and what inspired you to do this movie?
Well, you know, I'm not gonna lie. In the beginning, like when the Supergirl came out in the 1980s, you know, it just came out and I watched it, but I had no recollection. You know, I didn't like recollect it in my mind later on in life. Now that I'm 28, but you know, I grew up in a way where like I was always the underdog. I was always that guy that, you know, wasn't the popular kid in school. But I saw myself, and I see this in other people and in Supergirl that we all have to relate to, is that people that are unseen are the ones that are usually the most gifted. You know, and I see that the Supergirl in the 1980s and even the comic books, I feel like has been portrayed as the most iconic role, you know, recently. But I mean, of course, there's still fans following it and all that stuff. But I feel that, you know, why haven't they made a newer movie of her, or why haven't they, you know, brought her back? And so I think that that's something that we should appreciate, is that, you know, even though I honor the Supergirl film back in the 1980s, I really appreciated it. But I feel like there's so much more to the character, you know. She's a human being. We got to know what she's feeling, what she believes in, like where's your mind, you know. And that's just almost just like how I am and all these other underdogs. And so I want to emphasize that a lot.
No, I completely agree with you, and that's one thing I've always loved about this character as well, too. As opposed to Superman, for example, she's not as well known and well versed in her character, and she hasn't been well portrayed as much or as well as Superman has, for example. And you're right, she's kind of the underdog, for example, and that's why I've always loved this character so much, because of that, because she's the underdog, because she's not as well known and as much as she should be, and I think she should be out there a lot more. And this is why one perfect example why I love your film so much, because she's out there, and you're portraying her in such an amazing light, in the sense that you know, she's humble and she's sweet, but she's also can kick ass and she does the right thing, and that's what I loved about your movie the most, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I really Walter J's film, Stranger in a Strange Land.
Yes.
Because I thought that was it was a good story. Like, I'm like, okay, Walter, he knew like to focus on what it was feeling like to be in a new planet and battling like what is going on, you know what I mean? And if we focus on more stories like that, I mean, like this is all I support, you know?
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So back to the Girl of Steel. How did you come up with the plot or the premise for the movie itself?
Well, originally, what came up first was I wanted to focus on a story that was, of course, on the present, but I wanted to focus on certain issues, like, say, for instance, I used to work for this television production company that I can't, because of the confidentiality agreement, but it was a show based on, like, helping people, and the show received letters from across the U.S., and it could have been about any subject, you know, it could have been about, you know, con artists, but one issue was domestic violence, and it was about young women either they were girlfriends or wives, talking about how their husbands or boyfriends were being very abusive. And I really want to focus on, the issue of how can we empower women to fight for themselves, not in a physical way, but mentally as well. How can they defend themselves through those issues? And also, the whole Fukushima incident that happened a couple of years ago that still affects our waters today in the Pacific. That was an instance that hit really close to me, even though when it did happen, I wasn't so sure how to understand it. But when it did happen, it really made me think, like, not just eating seafood, but like I'm serious, like thinking about like the dolphins and all the sea life there, and they have feelings and emotions just like we do. But just because they're in water, we feel disconnected from them. And so when the Girl of Steel, the story came about, I wanted to not just make a story to entertain people, because I feel like a lot of movies are there to just entertain people. But I wanted to see, like, okay, what can we do to send a bigger message, a hidden message, to plant a seed in somebody's mind so that it can grow and they can create their own tree.
Okay.
I mean, that was my main motivation, though.
Okay, sounds great. So it's been mentioned during the film that obviously Kara was very reluctant to join the fight, just to save Earth, essentially, against the invasion. It wasn't until she met Jay Garrick that she pretty much changed her mind. Why was Kara so reluctant to join the fight, and what exactly made her change her mind afterwards?
Well, when Kara was first approached by Agent Jill, played by Jill Penfold, she works for the CIA. I mean, when you think about the government, you're kind of iffy already. So it's, right now, even today in my own beliefs, like, we have a hard time trusting our government. You know what I mean? We have a hard time trusting what we believe in, what's on the news. And it's not, we're all part of the same circle. So it's whatever we believe in, we also take action. So when she saw Jay Garrick, he's part of the Justice League. And we all know that the Justice League is such a respectable, honorable crew that, fights for truth and fairness and equality and the better for the good and the, anyways, all that jazz. But with the Girl of Steel's character, when she sees this guy, Jay Garrick, she sees, like, okay, I know that he's part of the Justice League, and I know what they fight for. Now I'm convinced. Because it takes more than just a human being to try to convince you, like, hey, this is what's going on. Would you be willing to do it? It's just like a salesman. I mean, when they were having their scene together, I kept encouraging, okay, don't treat it like you're a CIA agent and you're a Supergirl. Treat it like you're a salesman and she's the one that you need to pitch it to. And I even told her, like, hey, maybe you're the mom and she's the reluctant daughter that's so rebellious to listen to you. And so I try to encourage Jill to be like, hey, when you're talking to Sarah, make sure to sell her on this idea and see if it works. And I don't know if you noticed at the end, when they shook hands, Agent Jill gave this look of satisfaction, as if she served a better good. Like, okay, I know that I'm a CIA agent, but I did bring these two together, and that's a good thing because we all are trying to help out Earth at the same time.
Yep, that makes sense to me. So next question is for both of you. During the movie, we basically see some very well choreographed fight scenes and amazing soundtracks from clever acting, especially by Sarah. What obstacles, if any, did you have during the production of the film?
I remember it being a little bit cold, but other than that, like, everyone worked really well together and things like that. I mean, the choreography, we rehearsed it was well rehearsed, and it was just good. It was a good little shoot that we got to do, and everyone worked really well together. So I didn't think there was many obstacles. Maybe we had to use what we had, so we had to work with the space that we had, which was, as you saw, a really narrow hallway.
Right.
Yeah.
So obviously we can't do things like throwing people across the other side of the room. So we had to Matthew Simmons, the choreographer, had to work out, what would be the best way to use this fight sequence and also to complement the camera angles as well. So.
Yeah, the narrow hallway was actually a pushed idea. We didn't, I've seen a lot of fan films and they all always shoot either in broad daylight, which kills me because it takes away from the rest of it. And also, they always fight in open spaces, which allows, yes, the filmmaker to have more options of what to do. But I love obstacles. I love the fact that it was a narrow hallway and cornering a person because almost making the character feel claustrophobic and the viewer feel claustrophobic. But the challenges were that it's funny that she says that it didn't really feel like a challenge because that's how good she is. But it was really based on how well Matthew Simmons was going to choreograph it because I told him like, hey Matthew, like I'm not really good at choreographing fight scenes. I've done it before and I suck. I admit it. Can you do this for me? He was like, yeah, I can. Actually, Matthew Simmons was the one that recommended Sarah to play the part. And yeah, because like they apparently worked on a few gigs together for stunt work, and he was like, yeah, you got to meet Sarah. Like she's amazing. And I'm like, I don't know. I'll think about it. And then he showed me her reel. And I was just like, whoa, she's freaking badass, you know? So, but if anything, if any obstacles that there were, it was like the fact that it was kind of cold. And I don't know if I speak for Sarah, but I kind of like felt like I didn't want to overdo the amount of energy that she had because she went all out. She was like, I'll do anything, everything. I don't know if it's because she's Australian or if she really is just badass like that. But I mean, like she made it a lot easier for us than anybody thinks. But you know, it looks better on camera than it was like behind the camera.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, I was thinking on Sarah as Supergirl. How difficult was it to find your Supergirl? I think you mentioned she was referred to you. And what criteria were you looking for the Supergirl for this role?
Sorry, what was it?
Well, basically just for Vincent specifically, but I mean, you found Sarah.
Sorry.
It's okay. Well, basically, what kind of Supergirl were you looking for the role of Kara Zor-El, and what criteria were you looking for in your Supergirl?
Wow, just like anybody that wants to make any film of their favorite thing, we look for the exact image of that person, the exact likeness. I gave it a shot. We were here in the same casting studio where I did the casting for Supergirl. And, I was originally casting for a blonde, and I was looking for acting and, the fighting skills and the fighting abilities. And so when I started auditioning, I spent about 2 weeks, painstaking 2 weeks, looking for that blonde Supergirl. But as I was going through the casting, I started to realize these women came in with this idea, like, of who Supergirl is. And I'm like, what they came in, I felt like they were a little bit unprepared. Like they were thinking, oh, Supergirl's blonde. It's all about the look,
right?
And I'm like, it's not just about the look. It's you inside. It's the personality. Mm-hmm. Like, are you Supergirl? Are you Kara? Can you relate to that? After another, I was kind of disappointed in the choice that I made, which was I needed to cast a blonde. So I left myself very open to like, okay, I'm discovering that it doesn't have to be a blonde. It doesn't have to be a beautiful woman. It just needs to be someone very empowering, Absolutely. And, when I brought up Sarah and I saw her online, I was like, I got to meet her. Called her the day of. I was like, Sarah, could you meet me, please? And we met at this diner, and we literally just sat down, me and her. And I remember like before I sat in the chair, I looked at her. And I wasn't sure what I was understanding, but when I then sat in the chair, I could not believe that this was her. And I kept telling her, like, I probably didn't even say any words at some point because I was just in awe. I think it was kind of awkward for her. She's probably like, who's this? Is this guy weird or something, He's not saying anything. And so, but I was just receiving it so much in my mind, I couldn't even focus on what was going on in the exterior. I couldn't talk, I couldn't speak. And then as finally I brought everything together, I was like, you're her, like you're the one. And I don't know, like I still to this day don't know exactly what it is about Sarah that relates to Kara, other than the fact that the names rhyme. But it just like it's pops, and that's what's great about cast, that you see the person that's perfect for the role. Mm-hmm. You see beyond your criteria of what was required of the character. You think about like who can bring something new to the table, and she brought something new to the table without saying a word. So. That's how it kind of turned out. Yeah.
Cool. Very nice. So to you, Sarah, I mean, as an actress, did you have to do any kind of preparation to play this role of Supergirl, or did you simply go in there and wing it, or how did you prepare for this role?
I don't think I just went in to wing it, but I mean, I do. I mean, yeah, people say that sometimes, and maybe they do, but I do like to prepare. I mean, I like to obviously go over the script and get familiar with the context and everything. And with the character, I mean, I felt really connected to her because I guess the age and just, I mean, I don't think I'm Supergirl, but I do like the, I do feel like I'm a little bit badass in a way.
I think so too. Yeah.
So, I found it easy to connect with her, and yeah, I mean, I don't know, I just Yeah, I thought she was such a cool character to portray, so I just put myself in it and
You see, she's a
did what
natural.
I could.
Yeah, very natural. So big question I think everyone wants to know, myself included, will we actually ever get to see Sarah wear the iconic Supergirl costume? Is that in any of the plans in the future?
That's funny. In my mind, haven't thought about the uniform because, what makes the Man of Steel the Man of Steel? Is it his uniform or is it him? So
Yeah.
I thought about that, and they both coincide with each other because, yeah, you do need uniform to recognize who Superman is, or else you just know him as a guy that's brunette,
Right.
and he happens to be strong and an alien. But with my plan is, yeah, I do plan on using the uniform later on in the development of the project itself. But what I want to do is not have the uniform be like, a short skirt and, I didn't want her to be like a sexual icon because
Right.
when I looked at Supergirl on Google, the first thing I see is like sexual images or sexual representation concept art of her, and it kind of worried me, like, this is a character that kids are reading,
Right.
how are we seeing her? Yes. And, it is really concerned me, like, where are we at today with seeing who she is, and if I were to make a uniform, it definitely is going to be a little revolutionary. Like, I don't want to go with a generic, just the long cape, short skirt, red boots, and, blue top. But I'll leave that to surprise you guys. But yeah, if anything, we will see the Supergirl uniform, but it will be very transformative, and it will challenge people, and people will hate it, and people will love it.
Interesting. All right. So, I mean, I obviously love what you've done so far. Is there any more than what we've already seen on YouTube, the clip we've seen on YouTube? And if so, when and where will we see the rest of the film or see more clips, or what do you have planned for the future?
Right now, we are actually very much in the development of the script because we really wanted to tell this new story of how superheroes are portrayed. But yeah, there will be a film coming out, and right now a lot of people have been giving us little mixed messages like, hey, maybe you guys should be on CW or pitch this to Warner Brothers.
Right.
But what we really want to focus on is not just doing that, but if we're going to tell the story of Supergirl, we got to tell it like, okay, how is she going to live on this planet, and also. I can't really give this away, or else I'm giving the whole movie away. But there's this comic book that really caught my interest, which was man, I don't know how I can explain this. Well, I'll just leave it at this. What makes a superhero a superhero, and what makes a hero? Just a normal person. And so what we're gonna do in this new story is make sure that Kara is not just a superhero, but a hero that we can all relate to,
Okay.
and also. She's going to be tested in this story where she's going to find out if she's willing to die for what she believes in. And the last comic book that I remember seeing was The Fall of Supergirl. And I can't recommend which a comic book that is, or else people will read it and they'll like, oh, that's what it's going to be. So I have to leave it at that, or else I will tell you guys more. But man, it's going to be amazing.
Nice, very cool. It kind of reminds me, I think, a little bit of there was a prequel comic that came out just before the Man of Steel did, and it was just online. It was a Supergirl comic. It was just just based on Supergirl, and it was about her life on Krypton, and kind of what got her to Earth. Actually, like I said, it was a preview, sort of prequel comic to the Man of Steel. So, basically, if you read the comic book, exactly what you're saying. She's not a superhero yet. She doesn't have any powers like that, but she's kind of like a soldier on Krypton. She goes through these trials and tribulations. She passes everything. She's an incredible warrior in that sense of the word. And she basically is sent to Earth to do some work and that sort of thing. And she crash lands there, and that's how she basically ends up on Earth, which we might see in the next Batman vs Superman movie. Who knows? But that's basically what the prequel comic was all about.
I just heard that the title of the new Man of Steel or Batman vs Superman movie was called Man of Steel Fight or Flight. I don't know how that's going to turn out. Yeah, I just heard it today. I literally just heard it today. I hope that the title made me feel a little iffy too, and some people have been having some not so good reviews about it. But I hope that Kara does make an appearance there to the movie, because I think that in the Man of Steel, I mean, there was that open pod, in that ship, and I'm just hoping, I hope it's her.
Yeah, well, I think so too. I mean, if you read the prequel comic, she was supposed to be in that pod, and she comes out at the end of the book. She's basically walking out of the ship, kind of into the Arctic or wherever it was, and that sort of thing. But so she was supposed to be in that pod. Who knows if we'll see her in the next movie? But I mean, I think we really should. I mean, I think she should be in something.
Yeah,
most definitely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So regarding the Girl of Steel, where can people find more about it? More stay up to date on its contents, on your upcoming projects as well too.
We are, if anybody wants to follow the film, they can visit our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Girl of Steel fan film. And, but, if they ever want to follow us, like we have some screenings because we're testing the product of the film itself at film festivals. We submitted it to, I think, about like 14. There's like Cannes, there was the Superman Celebration, all the Comic-Cons. A lot of the Wizard Cons. Yeah, we primarily focused around the group that would actually be interested in the Los Angeles Film Festival, and we're still waiting to hear back from them. But right now, as we speak, we only know of Comic-Con in Boston and the Superman Celebration, and we're still waiting to hear back from the San Diego Comic-Con, which is like our main goal. Yeah, we definitely want to get into that one. But there's also one in Cannes that was submitted to the short film corner and also the short film competition and the American Pavilion in Cannes. So yeah, that's what we got going on so far right now as we speak.
For Sarah, besides the Girl of Steel, where can people see you next and keep up to date with your projects as well?
I guess my website, I put everything on there. I always have like little videos and things that I'm doing and working on. Next, I might be in China. But yeah, I've been doing some traveling the past couple of years and fortunately being able to work while I'm doing that as well. So, but yeah, my website, which is my full name, sarahmcreanor.com, and I put everything on there. So.
Sounds good. Okay, so one last question to each of you before we go. Sarah, I'll start with you this time. As an incredibly talented dancer and actress whose credits, and correct me if I'm wrong, include the Disney Channel, the Zumba World Party video game, How to Train Your Dragon Love Spectacular World Tour, and various theater and commercial appearances, what advice would you give to an aspiring actress or dancer who are dreaming of seeing their name in lights one day?
Just do it. That's what I did. I mean, if you really love something, really passionate about it, then there's no way that you should. There's no reason why you shouldn't just try your hardest at it. So I mean, growing up, I always had a passion for performance, and I mean, yeah, there's always going to be obstacles and challenges, and there's also going to be people who tell you things that maybe you don't want to hear, but use that as motivation to maybe prove them wrong.
Hey, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, just if you're passionate about it, and just keep yourself motivated as well. You can't really rely on other people. Or, I mean, for me personally, I've created a lot of my own work because I love being creative. So you can't just sit back and wait for jobs to come to you. You've got to work yourself. So, yeah, that's good advice. But that's what I'm trying to do at the moment.
Sounds good. And to you, Vincent, some of your amazing work include acting, writing, directing in various films as Lone Star State of Mind, B-Boy Movie, and 1,000 Ways to Die. What advice would you give to an aspiring filmmaker just starting out?
A lot of filmmakers that are emerging nowadays are, they have accessibility to YouTube and stuff like that. So when they have that, they believe like whatever they see on YouTube, the same thing that when television existed. They believe whatever's on the screen, and I want to make sure that when there are filmmakers out there that are emerging, and I tell this to a lot of my students, is that if you're making a film, make sure to do it from a storytelling point and not just try to entertain or do it for the money, because it's not about the money. When you make movies, you want to tell a story that's very personal to you. And it just happened to be for me that I made The Girl of Steel. This wasn't like my driven goal. I saw a message in it, and it was very personal to me. And I want people to realize, like, when you're making a film, just don't aim to be the best at something or to be better at somebody else. It's all about being the best that you can be so that you can be the better example for other people, because we're here to inspire, influence, not to overcome and be, bullies. Because, in the end, like, we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to get to the same goal. But are we going to get there by betraying people or just taking advantage of people's kindness? And so if filmmakers are going to get into something, they can either be in the part of the entertainment industry or the storytelling industry or the blockbuster or the Oscar-winning film, whatever happens as a filmmaker, anybody can make a movie. Babies can make movies. So if you're going to go any of that route, just be humble and be grateful and work with great colleagues and don't lie. Don't hurt anybody. That's about it.
Yep, absolutely. That's some great advice for sure. So that's all the questions I had for you both today. Thank you again, once again, for taking time to answer some of these questions about the Girl of Steel. Any final words before we head off?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having this interview. I mean, if anything, I'd rather go through an interview through the Supergirl homepage because it's like the #1 resource for Supergirl. And I really like to congratulate you for staying up to date with comic books and everything else with Supergirl. And finally, like somebody like recognize it. And I'm glad that you're up right now. So thank you.
Absolutely. No, thank you for the movie. Okay, so that's it then. So thank you again. So this has been Dan Staff, the SupergirlHomepage.net with Vincent Tran and Sam McCreanor telling you to go watch The Girl of Steel. You will not regret it. Thank you.